Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit that subscribe button if you're new so you don't miss any of our great football content this season. Okay, I haven't talked to Matt Mosley in a long time, host of the Doomsday podcast with Ed Werder. But Ed's not here today, so let's just say Matt's the host, and Ed will have to deal with all the, landmines after this. So first of all, long time no talk. It's I thought this was a 4-win team. I thought Schottenheimer was going to be a disaster. And yet, the offense is cooking with no CeeDee Lamb. They're rebuilding the O-line. Javonte Williams looks pretty good. They don't have a number one receiver. I think Pickens is more of a 2. What is Brian Schottenheimer, who hadn't interviewed for a head job in a decade and a half? What's the secret sauce here?
By the way, I mean, they have CD coming back. So, I think we would agree he's a legit one.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Pickens playing himself into a big contract. And see, Jerry has all this room now to deal with, trading Micah. He's got all the cap room in the world. So, yeah. Jerry can move around and do some things. It really is kind of sad, though, because it feels like it's going to be wasted. They're going to win more than 4 games. But they're losing games, and this is probably the best Dak's ever played. This is the most comfortable he's been. And thinking about what you just said, without CD, with Pickens, in that last game, without even a run game. I mean, Bobby Brown from Texas A&M, the 5th-year player out of A&M, and whoever else Carolina was lining up, you could name them all, Colin. They had Javonte bottled up, and still Dak was fine. Yeah. And they're scoring 30 points a game. And they had one hiccup, and that was in Chicago. And they had a really bad outing against Caleb in Chicago. But maybe Ben Johnson is turning that thing around. But but the offense is great. It looks so much better, honestly, than even McCarthy, because they're just more inventive. They're getting more people involved. The running game looks better. Like what they're doing with their tight ends. I mean, think about that. Ferguson didn't have a touchdown all of last season. I don't think he had a single touchdown. He's had like 4 in the last 4 weeks. Yeah. He's on a roll. And then, he's doing for Pickens what Romo used to do for the Laron Robinsons. And you remember old Miles. They've had Miles Austin. Romo used to elevate guys. And Dak's even doing that because Pickens looks incredible and he's looked like a number one. But I think your 4-win, I think they'll exceed that, but only, Colin, because the NFC East is so bad. Like, this thing looks bad right now, and this could have been a year with a league average defense. Cowboys could have a great shot of winning this division. That's how bad the division looks right now. Yeah. And they're not going to be able to do it because this defense is horrific, and I don't really see any path forward, like anybody you could bring in.
What I've said this, it's the Shaq-Kobe trade. The Lakers knew for 2 years Shaq was going to go to Miami with D. Wade and win more than Kobe was. But in the end, it was the right move. I think I am the only syndicated voice, TV or radio, that has said, I love moving Dak. Jerry's a deal maker. In the last 2 years, he couldn't pay $8 million for Derrick Henry. You took the oil man and the Maverick and you muted his ability to do any deals because they were too top heavy. And now Dak is playing great. So you go in to a draft next year with 2 1s and you don't need a quarterback. Meaning, let's say they have the 8th pick, 9th pick. They could move down to 15, grab another 3 or a 4 or 5, rebuild the defense. You know how it works. Defense is about collisions, is about blowing stuff up. You can walk in as a pass rusher, as an elite corner or a linebacker and play as a rookie and have an impact. I mean, Fred Warner did, Bosa's do, Micah did. You're not asking a tight end to learn how to block out of college or a quarterback or an offensive lineman where even if you're good, it takes a year. I think Dallas is going to take those first 2 draft picks. They're going to upgrade their defense. They'll have money to buy another playmaker. Kenny Clark's a nice get in that deal. I think Dallas long-term is better without Micah. I just think you're going to lose this trade because Green Bay is going to win playoff games and you're going to look bad. You're going to look like Kobe with the Lakers waiting to get Gasol, Shaq's in Miami winning, and everybody crushes you for 2 years. But in the end, Gasol was the better fit.
Okay, but the quarterback is going to be 34 or 35 years old by the time you're turning the corner and getting all these picks in. So you might have to go get another quarterback too. And what's happening right now is they're wasting a brilliant year. He was second. I mean, I know we beat up on him, and you have, and I have over the years to a certain extent. He was number 2 in the MVP voting just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
2023. Does he get hurt too much? Yes. Does he run the ball anymore? No. But like he's making right now, he's as efficient. I mean, there's not a quarterback in the league playing more consistently and throwing the ball better than Dak right now.
I agree. Totally agree.
I just don't know if they can turn it around as quickly as you're talking about. And plus, what a deal to do to Eberflus and even Schotty. What a deal. A week before, 7 days or 5 days before the deal, you trade your one huge defensive playmaker. And it's not just, they're struggling against the run, they're struggling against the pass. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. So while I agree, and it's interesting to see what they do with it, they're going to be on their third defensive coordinator in 3 years. Because if Eberflus continues down this path, this isn't sustainable, and they're not going to give him another season. And so Schotty has to fire him. I mean, although it's not Schotty's decision. And again, that's where it all comes back to. I mean, Jerry meddles so much, he didn't even allow this new internal candidate to hire his own defense coordinator. I think Eberflus was in the building and probably hired before they'd even finished the deal with Schottenheimer. So again, this is the backwards dealings of an owner / GM. But it'd be great if they could turn it and flip it. I mean, they'll have 2 first-round picks next year. Maybe they find somebody, but I mean, think about what they're missing right now. They don't have a decent linebacker. They're 2 stud defensive backs. They're 2 stud cornerbacks that are worth $90 million in the contracts, combining for about $36 to $40 million this year, just on this year's books, are horrible right now. They don't have anybody who's playing safety. They're playing Donovan Wilson completely out of position. They don't have a linebacker that can make a tackle. I mean, it's bad. This makes like Rob Ryan, look almost like he knows what he's doing. Go back to some of those guys they struggled with. So it's just, I guess to me, Colin, I see what you're saying, and I'll be interested to see what they're able to build moving forward. But as I've said to you before, it really is a gut punch to have lucked into 2 quarterbacks for 20 years. Now, the Green Bay Packers have done it for 30. Yeah, I'm not saying they lucked into it. And although the trade for Favre, you can say what you want, and they got Aaron Rodgers way later than anybody ever thought Rodgers would go in the first round. But they've had 30 years of great quarterback play.
Yeah.
Cowboys are entering year 20 of tremendous quarterback play and have nothing to show for it. At least the Packers have 1 Super Bowl. At least they can point to 1 Super Bowl. Yeah. Cowboys have 0. And not even an NFC title game.
Today's show brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. The pennant's on the line, lights are brighter than ever. One swing can change everything, and you can be part of every pitch at Hard Rock Bet. New customers can place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you not only get your winnings, but also $150 in extra bonus bets. Plus, every day this week on Hard Rock Bet, you get a profit boost for a postseason baseball parlay. There's new promos every day. Boost your same-game parlay or same-game parlay max so your bet pays extra winnings. If you want to see what everybody else is betting on tonight, right, top picks or parlays across any sport, the Hard Rock Bet app literally shows you. It's another reason to download the app. Takes 90 seconds just for the info. Tap Discover, and you can see trending picks and parlays at any time. So download the Hard Rock Bet app. Make your first deposit. So Dallas... I mean, there's, how does the Dallas media, I mean, now that Mark Cuban has sold the Mavericks, Jerry is the centerpiece of that city's sports fortunes. How does when he fired Tom Landry, nobody liked him. Then when he built the empire, he was a big shot. Then they got rid of Jimmy and things sag. And how does the Dallas media treat Jerry Jones? What is it like in those post-game scrums? How is he treated? With reverence, with anxiety, with disrespect?
Have you seen me behind him in all those scrums?
Yeah.
And some reason I have to battle my way back there. I have to watch it because then later people show me my facial expressions. I've been around him so long that I can't kind of hold it in. I'm just like, what in the world am I hearing? I think if anything, people have gotten more where they'll just they know he's not going to change. He is entertaining. Nothing's ever going to change. They have a guy in Will McClay who's a good personnel man. There's a shot that they hit on these draft picks. I mean, they hit on a lot of these picks. They've hit on they may end up hitting on every one of their offensive line. Now, when you ask them to go get a defensive tackle or sometimes a defensive end, they'll miss. They'll miss on some of that. But no, I think the media is just at this point going through the motions. They know he's still the center of everything. It's kind of humorous because the head coach almost has to I think they wait to take, and it's smart of them to do this, they wait to take the head coach to the podium until Jerry's thing is finished. Because when they didn't, and McCarthy would start before Jerry was finished, McCarthy might have 5 people around him. And there would be 45 to 70 people gathered around Jerry. So that's what it's what it will always be. And Jerry will keep doing this until he's well into his 90s. All right. He just turned 83. I think he just celebrated his 83rd birthday. But I just think we're just so used to it. And so there's nothing, and so the head coach and everybody else has to wait and see what he said, and then they have to react to whatever he said.
I will say, I said generally in the NFL, by the end of the second chapter, if your average NFL quarterback career is 15 years, 15 chapters of a book, generally by the middle to late stages of the second chapter, you know what they are. Josh Allen, end of his second year, jumping over linebackers. You're like, this is going to work. Burrow, Herbert, we knew first year. Dak's unique. We're probably in chapter 11. And I talked about this a month ago on my show. They lost Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, CeeDee Lamb's now hurt, Mike McCarthy, Jason Garrett, Dez Bryant, Zeke. All these formidable players. And yet Dak, if he is upright, will win 10-plus games. And I thought I was always fair with Dak, but he's lost Hall of Fame talent. And it's rarely been replaced by Hall of Fame talent. And Dak's never had what you would consider a Andy Reid, a Sean Payton, a Bill Parcells, a Jimmy Johnson. And Dak's going to get Hall of Fame votes. And Dak is having his best year. Think about this. I came to this conclusion about a month ago. CeeDee Lamb's out. You don't have a number one receiver. You don't really have a number one tight end. The offensive line is mid and in a rebuild. Running game, Javonte Williams does look like the Denver Javonte Williams. And you're dropping 30 a game. Is that I look at it and I'm like, I always try to be fair with these guys. Baker Mayfield, I was hard. Now I'm not. Dak Prescott's intelligence and maturity, I haven't even thrown in the Jerry Jones quotient, which is a lot to deal with. And a very aggressive big city media in Dallas. Quarterback for the Cowboys is shortstop for the Yankees. It's a big boy job. And I look at Dak, and he's one of these quarterbacks. It took till about chapter 11, and I look at him and I'm like, if he gives me 4 more years like this, he's going to get a lot of Hall of Fame votes. We're just going to have to, the critics, and I've been one, I'm not a harsh critic, but I always said he's a B-plus quarterback. Have I just undervalued the intangibles, the maturity, the smart? I always thought he was smart. He was always great at the podium.
Yes.
But Jalen Hurts is not good from the pocket. Dak is good from the pocket. We can't deny that. He doesn't run like he used to, although he's got a little bit of juice this year. I don't know. I look at Dak and I'm like, hell, he's playing as well as anybody right now.
Yeah. And I only spent 10 years trying to convince you of this. and and yeah. I do think after some of those playoff games, when I would come on and say the intangibles, the way he leads, the way people respond to him, you weren't the only deaf ears that was falling on. It was just the problem with Dak is and it happened to Romo too. Like Romo was great early. I mean, now he had to wait till he got his turn, but by 2007, he was rolling. That team should have made it to an NFC title game, and he was better than Eli. He was absolutely a better quarterback than Eli, but Eli won 2 Super Bowls. So how are we going to view them? We're always going to view Eli as the better quarterback. Dak had the same kind of issue. Dak was great in 2016. Romo had to give a concession speech. They thought they were going to get 2 or 3 more years out of Tony Romo.
That's right.
Romo finally had to come out and write a concession speech and go, he's been great. And my time has been great here. And I'm going to turn this over to Dak Prescott now. And so Prescott was then held to like this high standard that we don't hold most 4th-round picks to. He was a 4th-round pick, but he had a great year out of the chute. And it's just like, man, this guy's got to be great for the next 10, 15 years or whatever. And he's had his down moments and he's had his great moments. He was good against Tom Brady and the Bucs in the playoffs. He was good against when they had to play the Packers and Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, and they lost that game in 2016. He's had good moments in the playoffs, but all you remember are the horrible moments. The San Franciscos, them getting crushed against the Packers in 2023. So he's defined by that. And here's the thing: Stafford had the same career. Stafford had the same career as Dak, but he was playing in Detroit, and we didn't hold him to the same standard, even though he was the number 1 overall pick and made $50 million immediately. We held him to a different standard because he didn't play for the Cowboys. So what you said early on was right. Shortstop for the Yankees, quarterback for the Cowboys. Like, he's had the exact same career as Stafford, but he didn't get the Super Bowl. He doesn't have the Super Bowl. And guess where DeMarcus Ware had to go to get that Super Bowl? Another team. He had to go over to Denver, and then he got one with Peyton Manning. He got a Super Bowl finally. Teams here don't get Super Bowls. And so you can have great careers. I don't think Dak will see the Hall of Fame, because I just don't think there's much evidence of other than, and Marino at least made it to the Super Bowl. And you have to put up massive numbers for 10 or 15 years like he did. And Dak won't do that. Dak's not. And sadly, Dak, to your point, he is playing great, and I know quarterbacks are playing better into their mid-30s now, but are they really going to get this thing turned around and be good in his next 2 years? I don't know, maybe. Maybe. He gets hurt a lot too. Don't forget.
Jackson Dart, the Giants went from pathetic to very interesting. This is a weird league. Washington last year was great. Now, what are they? Bears were untenable. Now they're 3-2. This is a weird league. Like, if you have the quarterback, and Dak is clearly a top 12 quarterback, you can get better really fast in this league. Like, really. Seattle could be undefeated right now. Darnold's better than Geno. I think if you have Dak and you have CD, and then let's say you go in the draft of your 2 firsts, and you get an edge rusher and a top corner. Second round, you get an elite tight end. Those 3 guys inserted into the starting lineup. Dallas is a real team.
Yeah. But they already have top corners. They're paying huge money to their cornerbacks, and they're not playing. They're not any good. So, I don't know if you go, and where you can't totally come around on Dak is when I hear you say he's a top 12 quarterback. It doesn't come naturally out of you to say what he is, which is a top 8 quarterback.
You're right. It's not natural. Hey, you're beyond this. Is Texas college football very well. I threw this out a month ago. I said, in a weird way, Arch Manning taking all the arrows this year has actually taken the pressure off Sark. Texas runs through football coaches. And, Sark's building this thing up. And Arch struggling, nobody's talking about Sark. Sark's not getting any heat in these games. And it's like it's a good reprieve because the O-line's been bad. Arch has struggled. How does that get covered where you're at? The Arch man, because I don't think he's a bust. I just think, I said this when The Athletic came out with that Arch Manning's the biggest flop ever. And I went back to his senior year of high school. I took the 4 best quarterbacks. One is a hit, Dante Moore. Nico Iamaleava. One gets now at Auburn. There's Arch Manning. As you know, because you follow some high school recruiting, these 5-star quarterbacks, if it's a 50% hit rate, I'm shocked. How is Arch viewed in Texas? Is it, Mannings aren't Texans, but Texas football is, kind of king. How does that story get any play where you're at? Now it's time for this week's Redeem Team member, brought to you by Hulu's Chad Powers. This week it's Jake Moody, the Bears kicker, released by the Niners after having a rough week 1. On Monday, Jake got redemption, 4 field goals, including the game winner against the Commanders. Chad Powers now streaming with new episodes Tuesday on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge play. And the great thing for him and Sark is he had a decent day against OU.
Yeah.
And in this part of the world, that defines you. I mean, you probably don't remember Peter Gardere, but he went 4-0 against the Sooners. And so he's a made man. He'll never pay for a drink in Austin. And Arch is held to a completely different standard than even the top, 5 stars. We see 5 stars all the time that don't meet expectations and then have to bounce around, and nobody keeps bringing it up. People just kind of forget about them. But his uncles were incredible. His grandfather is beloved. He had, there was almost a no-win situation. He had to come in and be brilliant in his first time ever starting with the team. The best thing I can hear about Arch is his teammates absolutely seem to love him. And you do see times when people, like, by the way, this Cowboys team is turning on this defensive coordinator and they're starting to rip on him. When a team's going poorly and a quarterback's going poorly, you start to hear whispers from their teammates. And that's not happening in Austin. And by the way, it's an easy place to whisper because you can find those kids out on 6th Street. You can go find them and you can get them talking. All right. But they're not talking about Arch, and they seem to love him. And so he seems to have gotten past, at least with his own teammates, this born with the silver spoon in his mouth. I don't think the teammates think of him that way, but everybody else that watches the team and even covers the team does kind of see him that way.
I can say I know Cooper very well. I casually know Eli. I've only met Peyton once, but I have dealings with Omaha Productions, which is Peyton. I have never thought. I think the Mannings are remarkably humble. I mean, just Eli, maybe the most. I mean, think about this. A Louisiana kid goes to New York, and for like 20 years, completely, only Jeter maybe handled the press better. Eli handles the New York press for 2 decades perfectly. Eli is one of the great guys that has ever been in pro sports as a human being. I mean, he went to New York as a Southern kid and charmed him. And by the way, totally authentic. Nothing's fake. Eli, the 3 times I've been around him, he's the exact same guy.
By the way, and I hope you have so many associations, it's hard to know. So I hope I'm not going to rip some guy that is buddies with you. But Tiki was undermining him like crazy early on.
Oh,
and
was
the
he?
stuff he was calling him in the huddle. But I mean, I remember showing up there when I was at ESPN.com, and they were having to basically give the guy like body language classes. Like, Eli, stop making this face. Stop lowering your head. Do it this way. You can't hang dog it like that, because that's just who he was. That's just, and of course, then he has the incredible 2007 run, and he has another Super Bowl run, and then he's a made man, and it didn't finish well, but he did enough to. But oh my gosh, you should have seen Tiki. The stuff he was like, they were awful to Eli. It was like they're pledging him, man. It was like when you were trying to go Sigma Chi or whatever. They were all over him, and he was. And that was a rough time early in his time because he was the number one bonus baby, and his dad had taken over and gotten him to be drafted in a different place. Yep. And that, as we see with any of these quarterbacks who have famous dads, then you have to wear that for a while, in the league. But to your point, I used to get in the car and ride around with Eli and do stories on him at Giants practice, and it couldn't. You're right. To be from this famous family, and I saw him in social situations where people were trying to flood around him, and he was truly. It wasn't like just he was playing possum. He was almost kind of like troubled by it. So what I love now is that he's very funny. Like he and Peyton are perfect together.
Genuinely.
It isn't that the perfect thing they found. Why put yourself through the ringer of having to do a 3-hour game every Sunday and do all that? Why not just sit there and goof off for a game? And they're great at it. And, I find myself watching that more than the actual game.
So how are you doing, my man? I mean, we don't get to talk. We're both busy as hell. Are you still doing that? Are you still doing that ESPN radio show down in Baylor?
Yeah, Central Texas, that whole area? I left. I've got a new YouTube show through Rogue Media. Appreciate you asking me. The Matt Mosley Show, so people can find it wherever they find it. And, I thought about this when you said something about being syndicated. Now, my syndication doesn't quite go to as many states as you do, but several states across the Southwest now, I'm a part of something called the E-Radio Network. And so I do a radio show that hits all the Fox and ESPN affiliates in about 5 states in the morning. And by afternoon, I do this YouTube show. So we're all doing YouTube shows now. I saw Michael Irvin is doing one. And I know your production staff, Josh and the whole gang, were very impressed that I actually went out and I bought myself like a tracking camera and all the things that you need to really, really act like a grown-up in this business. So, yeah.
I want to go back to the Micah trade. So there was a lot of finger pointing, and a lot of my audience isn't in Dallas, right? And I've always leaned on guys like you who know, you're a soldier, you're a foot soldier, you're in the belly, of this beast, the Cowboys. When the Micah trade went down, people overwhelmingly didn't like it. But can we blame anybody now? Was it, because the national press was basically, Jerry doesn't know what he's doing. And my take is, you're not one of the richest Americans. It's almost like I always tell people about Trump. Whether you like him or not, what he's done in the Middle East with the border, he won for a second time, pretty competitive country. He can't be a dope. There's got to be, the light bulb's got to be on most of the time. Jerry's been too rich, too successful, too smart in business to not know what he's doing in that deal. He knows when the money doesn't sound right. I defended it because Micah in big playoff games and in big games sometimes disappeared and was engulfed by the better left tackles. How did it play? If you look at it now in hindsight, could it have ever, they did make him an offer, Matt.
We don't know. I don't even know. He made him an offer, and that's where the thing fell apart, is because it came across to the agent and Micah later on that Jerry tried to take advantage of him. And that's where the thing went south. Jerry thought he had a deal with him, and it was going to be a massive deal. I don't think it was going to be as good of a deal as he got with the Packers. The shocking thing about this is Jerry's never they had the Herschel Walker trade and all that, but he's never had like a guy who's arguably the best defensive player in the NFL. He's never let a superstar get away. He did a horrible deal with Zeke. I think he just honestly flat out got tired of getting beat on these deals. He makes, CD's the highest paid receiver, second highest paid receiver in the game. Dak's the highest paid quarterback. I think Jerry saw an opportunity to, in his mind, go a different direction here. And they just made each other mad. I think he embarrassed and tried to make Micah look like a guy who was confused and didn't understand the business. Okay. And then I think all that stuff Micah did, I mean, I still think they could have gotten a deal done. And then Micah went to camp, and I was there, and Micah started showing people up and getting on and taking naps and lying down on the trainer table, or training table on the during a game. I think both sides kind of embarrassed each other, and then they moved on. Now, what I wonder about is when a guy gets traded, you'll start hearing leaks, and you're like, oh, this is a bad guy, or he was immature, and he was this and that. I will say, you talk about me being there and all. I mean, I watched him, and he was trying to be a leader. Like, I'm not saying he was great at it, but Micah, I was at his locker almost every single game.
Yeah.
And while other players were slinking out of there after a lot of those losses last year, Micah was trying. Now, he would screw up and accidentally throw his coach under the bus. Like, he had moments where he messed up and he sounded like a 24-year-old kid or 25, whatever he is. But, man, I think he tried more than they're letting on. And I think deep down, even with all the money, I think people go, he got $47 million. Who cares? He's fine. He's with the Packers. I think his feelings are hurt. And I think Jerry tried to make him look bad. And Jerry embarrassed him. And Jerry embarrassed the agent. I mean, Jerry now has to turn around and try to get a deal done with Mulligetta on George Pickens. That's who Pickens' agent is. He's now got to turn around. And Jerry not only embarrassed the player, but Jerry took aim at that agent. And that's just unnecessary. Why do you do that? Like, I've been with all those Rangers GMs and covered baseball for many years. And do you think all of them hated Boras? Sure. There was a time when Scott Boras was the most hated man in all of sports, but they knew they had to deal with him. They knew if they wanted great players, they had to deal with him. Well, Jerry just decided, I'm just going to piss this guy off. I'm going to basically speak to the character and I mean, just completely undermine the agent and everything. So that's where Jerry did some weird stuff on this thing. Now, I'm with you in some respects. I want to see how the trade plays out. But what fuels this trade is the wrong stuff. What fuels Jerry is this eternal deal to try to prove that he can do it without Jimmy. And so when he brought up the Herschel trade immediately the night the trade was announced with Micah, that's what all this is about. You realize that these are two old men in their 80s still trying to get back at each other.
Yeah.
And they'll make up and they act like they love each other and they'll cry on camera and all this. But you know what? When Jimmy saw how that thing turned out, Netflix, Jimmy was like, that's just Jerry trying to rewrite history. Jerry, I guarantee you, he looked at that whole thing as a love letter to Jerry. And he thinks a lot of that stuff that came out in that documentary was just made up, complete BS. The guy who looked the best was Switzer.
Yeah.
Switzer ends up looking like, and I had Switzer on the other day, and he's still unbelievable. His mind, you ought to have him on soon. His mind at age 88, he just turned 88. It's unbelievable. And he's funny. Now, he may say some stuff that'll get everybody in trouble, but Switzer actually looked okay in that documentary.
Yeah.
But I think that documentary is going to get Jimmy and Jerry back at loggerheads again. And so they'll just go off into their 80s still mad at each other. Because at the end of the day, that's all Jerry's trying to do is win one without Jimmy. And he's never been able to do it. We're 30 years. Even Washington. At least you had Washington that had been forever since they had been to the NFC title game. They go to one with Jay Daniels. And you say, I heard you say, like, well, we don't know what Washington is right now. You know what, though? They appear to have a quarterback who's going to be there for a decade.
Sports fans love a comeback, so the underdog that kind of defies the odds. So that's the story of Green River Whiskey. In 1918, their distillery burned to the ground, 40,000 barrels of bourbon gone. Most would have quit, and they rebuilt from the ground up on the original site in Owensboro, Kentucky, and today they're producing some of the great bourbons and rye whiskeys in the game. Kentucky straight bourbon, a wheated, foolproof rye, It's a lineup built on resilience. So if you love a good comeback in sports or in your glass, Green River's got you covered. Head on over to greenriverwhiskey.com to learn more. Try some for yourself. And always, please drink responsibly.
I mean, that at least they're going to have fun. Same thing with New York. The Giants may win 6 games this year. They may win 5 games. But they're kind of interesting all of a sudden. Dart's running around. I mean, he's doing a Baker Mayfield impression. And he's probably a better athlete than Baker. But they kind of are built alike. The delivery seems alike. He probably has a better arm than Baker. But they're kind of alike in the way they approach it and the fun they're having. Those organizations all have something to look forward to. I mean, I'll tell you who doesn't have sympathy for the Eagles fans or the Cowboys fans. The Eagles fans have been to 2. They've won 2 Super Bowls in the past decade, and they're all whining and crying. Our offense looks bad, and AJ's not happy, and Jalen's not throwing the ball for that much. Boy, the last group that'll ever sympathize with them is anybody who's been around this Cowboys team. Because Howie Roseman, and I think you said it. I think you were the one who said it. And I was talking to people from Philadelphia, and they agree. I was talking with Sal Powell just the other day. That dude's going the whole thing. Howie Roseman is going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And, I mean, he was lucky if he had a cubicle when Chip Kelly was there. You know, they basically treated him like the movie The Office.
Yeah.
And they just like, hey, we need you to go down to the basement for a little while. And now he's going to the Hall of Fame. And Jerry's just kind of still out, just, wandering around in the darkness.
Yeah.
And by the way, hey, one thing, by the way, you're not talking about these Aggies. Boy, and I know anytime we talk off air, you're like, hey, I know you think UT is the straw that stirs the drink. Oh my Lord. In this state right now, you got this perfect mixture of a struggling Longhorns, number 1 to unranked to whatever they're ranked now. Aggies could be a national contender, national title contender.
Well, they look the part.
Are headed
They've looked
toward
the part
playoff.
most of even the R.C. Slocum years. They always look the part. They're always big. They have NFL linemen, players, linebackers, receivers. They've always had good players. They haven't had a lot of great quarterbacks, but they've always had. Texas A&M has looked the part my entire life.
They need this guy just to be average. That's how good some of these linemen. You talk about one trip to College Station would really do you some good. And I'm telling you, this Cassius Howe, like these linemen, they're just running them through. Somebody named Regis, and they're just running through NFL linemen. And I get it. Now the difference is they're great. They're actually really good on the O-line. They're really good at running back, and they get the best receiving duo in the country right now. It's scary. If they go to Death Valley and beat LSU, this is a whole different trajectory. And maybe this coach kind of has a little something going. He loves a good hoodie. He just fits them so much better than Jimbo. Jimbo is the most aloof dude. For some reason, Jimbo just didn't fit at all. And this Mike Elko, he's got something going on,
Yeah,
he's got me wanting to wear hoodies.
Well, I live in Chicago now, so that's all I wear. I'm going to get out of this.
Yeah,
dress
but
shirt.
you're still in the deal where you can wear like the thin guy hoodie. Like Elko and I have to have we got to have a big hoodie to take us in. But the thin hoodie looks great on golfers and everything. I would love it. There was a time I could pull it off, but we're well past that.
Matt Mosley, say hi to Ed, the Doomsday Podcast. How often do you do that thing? A couple times a week, 90 minutes?
Yeah. We hit that thing pretty hard. We just need the Cowboys to be horrible or really good. We just can't have them be in the middle. But we do that a couple of times. We'll have some big interviews. We'll do it after the post game, and then we have a whole bunch of other stuff we do. But yeah, Ed's. Would it be easier if I had like 150 employees than having one employee in Ed? You bet. I would rather try to have about 100. No, Ed's great, and we're doing fine. The Doomsday Podcast continues.
Yeah, you've been doing it for how many years?
7 or 8 years, something like that.
That's a lot of years to do a podcast.
Yeah.
No, it is. it's funny. Maybe it's just the popularity of football, but I still find myself, Dallas is such an interesting brand because sometimes I don't know. Jerry has always supported Dak. And one of the reasons I think he's supported him is because Jerry fears irrelevance and Dak's good enough to always make you relevant. I mean, you look in this league, there's about 7 teams every year that are unwatchable. The Cowboys are watchable. I didn't think this was going to be the year, but they're always watchable. There's a world that exists that CeeDee Lamb comes back, the O-line meshes, and they win like 9 games. That's a real thing. I mean, I've watched every snap of every game. They're a CeeDee Lamb drop from having beaten Philadelphia. They played a horrible game against Chicago. The defense was just lost. But they're in like they play Washington this weekend. That thing could be 33-30 coin flip either way. I mean, I just watched Caleb Williams and DeAndre Swift gash. I mean, DeAndre Swift, the holes created by the Bears O-line against Washington, Dallas is going to drop 28-30 points on Washington.
And they have to do it. They have to score 30 to 35 a game. And to your point, the high wire act of watching them attempt to do it is kind of fun. And then they're capable of doing it. And we're the point you made earlier was a great one. And that Dak, it used to be Romo could do this and Dak couldn't. Romo used to elevate bad offensive lines and kind of subpar offenses. And he made some receivers a ton of money.
Yep.
Dak, in chapter 11, I think you called it, has found a way to do that. And in that one game where they went out and went crazy against the Jets, now the Jets are dreadful, but 4 starting offensive linemen out, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, that's
Ball
right.
was coming out, and you got to give Schotty some credit for that. The thing I hate for Schotty, it's like you in with pitchers, especially this time of year, we talk about give him a clean inning, get the reliever. Wish we'd give him a clean inning. Wish he could have had a clean start to his head coaching career. Wish about 5 days before that they didn't trade his best player to see what he could have done with a full arsenal of players, because this marriage is not working. And they cleaned up Eberflus's haircut when he was in Chicago. His wife got him closely cropped, and she got some good things going there. But he lost his coaching career. He's lost his way, and he can't find it. And there's nobody to turn this thing over to because he brought people with him. The same people that were with him when he failed in Chicago are with him now. I do not think this defense is fixable.
The Fed has finally dropped interest rates, and that's great news for American homeowners. Expenses have been a major burden on families. Wages are flat, and prices keep climbing. And for many, the only way to make ends meet is to lean on credit cards. But that cycle of high interest debt makes it really, really hard to stay ahead for everybody. If you're a homeowner, call American Financing. Right now, interest rates have dropped. Many homeowners are seeing options in the low 5s. So compare that to credit cards charging rates in the 20s or higher. There's an easy path to see how you can finally put your hard-earned equity to work for you. American Financing can help you pay off that expensive debt, free up your cash flow, keep your budget under control. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving customers an average of $800 a month. And if you get started today, you may even be able to delay your next mortgage payment. Take control. Call American Finance today. 866-721-3300. 866-721-3300. Or AmericanFinancing.net/call. Listen, we know coordinators often get elevated to head coaches, and they're just not built for it. And there's probably a few position coaches that get elevated to coordinators, and they're not built for it. Failure, it's just part of football. I mean, I say this all the time. Jason McIntyre and I talked about it the other day. He asked, who's the next great automatic hire? So when the Broncos hired Peyton, you knew it would work. When the Chargers hired Harbaugh, you knew it would work. I argued in the offseason the Patriots were going to double their win total, Mike Vrabel was going to work. About every other year, I mean, Mike McCarthy to Dallas was going to have some success. He's a solid coach. He and Aaron can be hard to get along with. It's funny if Schottenheimer leaves. So McIntyre asked this question: who's the guarantee? There's about one every other year where you're like, oh yeah, that'll win games. Peyton, Harbaugh, Vrabel, McCarthy. If I said to you, Brian Schottenheimer lasts a year, is there a name? I'll throw it out at you. You're going to think I'm crazy here. Belichick. Let's just do that. Bill Belichick taking over. Forget Sark. Bill Belichick takes over the Dallas Cowboys. College is a disaster. He doesn't fit. He doesn't have a college sensibility. Belichick, by the way, is not good with personnel. And you could go to him and say, Bill, we do not trust you on personnel. We need a coach.
Yeah.
Is that nuts?
No, it wouldn't have been. But I think he's embarrassed himself. And I think he's hurt his credibility so bad. He hasn't damaged his legacy. That'll always be there. But he can't. I don't see him leading a team, and the fit's not good because the guy he learned from and he came up under, Bill Parcells, has already been with the Cowboys. And let me tell you, and I love Bill and still keep in touch with him, that was the most miserable I ever saw Jerry. Jerry cannot function in a world with a head coach like that. So, and to your point about McCarthy, isn't that funny? You know what I'm seeing right now? When you say who are going to be the hot coaches in the NFL, his name is one of the first ones you see. It's the same thing as James Franklin right now. He bottoms out with Penn State, and by the time these hires are made, Franklin's going to seem like this incredible choice for these SEC openings, right? Florida, Auburn. Franklin won at Vandy. He's coaching the SEC. Like, Franklin's going to be a hot name. And he just bottomed out 3 of the worst weeks in the history of college football. But yeah, that's a fascinating thing to imagine Belichick. But Jerry likes having a good time too much to put up with having a bad time to have a good time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, Belichick's a lot.
He can't. Yeah. And now he would like the Jordan Hudson aspect of it. Jerry would like that. He would like some of the sideshow if some of that came to town. But he would not want, I mean, Bill wouldn't want an owner out there. Now, here's the thing. Schotty's doing well enough as an offensive coach that Jerry's kind of excited. So Jerry is in the mindset right now of, if we do something to get the defense going, we can do this with Schotty. We can do this with Schotty because there's a belief right now with the way Dak's playing that they found the perfect guy for Dak. So there won't be a firing after this season. I remember you saying maybe Schotty could be one and done, but Schotty's doing too well on offense. He's doing too well on offense to get fired. So they have to go with their third defensive coordinator in the last 3 years. They cannot hire defensive coordinators. They're horrific at it. Mike Nolan was horrible. Quinn had a pretty good run. Quinn gets hired to be a head coach. Then they have 2 more bad ones. They had Rob Ryan before, Marinelli and Monty Kiffin. That was kind of a rough scene. They were kind of, they were past their prime. They're right. They just can't. They're horrible at it. You know what, by the way, isn't it interesting that Garrett's never gotten another opportunity? Because it's like, if you're decent with the Cowboys and you win a ton of games, and I promise you, when they interviewed him for the Falcons and the Ravens before he got the Cowboys job, he blew them all away. Like, they were blown away by Garrett. But I guess his time as the offensive coordinator with the Giants just kind of ruined his reputation.
I think Jason Garrett is one of the few NFL coaches that would work very well in college. I think he's a very pleasant guy. He's very bright, kind of a gentle personality. He'd play to the AD, the donors. I think if Jason Garrett wanted a college job, I mean, let's say, for instance, Michigan doesn't work for Moore. It just doesn't work. Jason Garrett, I've said this, personality matters a lot as a college coach. It matters not one bit as a pro coach, but it does matter as a college coach. That's why I've always said John Gruden and Rex Ryan could work as college coaches. Belichick and Parcells, it wouldn't work. Saban's actually charming. Saban's funny. He's witty. Great storyteller. Jason Garrett could work as a college coach. Especially, he's a really nice guy. I've texted him a few times. If you told me, Sark's not leaving. If you told me, I'm just trying to think of Tennessee's got the right coach. So does Alabama. If you told me Michigan was open, a big job, if Marcus Freeman ever left Notre Dame, although I don't think he should or will, I think Jason Garrett works collegiately.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think you're right in some ways. If he could navigate the whole NIL world.
Didn't he do Notre Dame games? He's doing Notre Dame games. I've heard him doing.
He was. Yeah. And now he does the NBC stuff. Yeah. It would just be, I think he thought he was going to get offered the Duke job at one point. And maybe that was when Elko got the job or something like that. That would have been a perfect job for him. Any sort of ACC that thinks of itself as like an Ivy League, that's where Garrett could function brilliantly. And let's not, you just mentioned Michigan. They think of themselves as like lofty academics, intellectuals.
What do they call those?
Michigan men.
Well, like there's a term. It's called a something Ivy. Penn State, Michigan both view themselves as that, like a non-traditional Ivy League school. The education level is very high. Garrett could do it. College football, you're watching it with Belichick. Some of that harsh Northeast grumpy shit, it doesn't work. You gotta shake hands. You gotta sometimes dance in the locker room with the players.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mac
well
Brown,
said.
Yeah.
It's very rare. Yeah. Even to your point, even the great Saban had players that would imitate him.
Yes.
And there was fun stuff that was probably happening and we didn't always see it. But now that you see that he kind of can be funny and can smile and all that, but it's hard to run a program like that anymore, though. It's hard to be that authoritarian, just hard fist. I wonder if Lanning, I know he got beat the other day, it's Cignetti. That's the craziest story the past 20 years in college football. Some dude goes into, he's winning at James Madison. Who in the world would have ever known?
Mid-60s.
We had no clue. None of us. And he tried to tell us. He is at age 63 or 64, where I've seen people in the Big 12 like this, Kleiman, Lance Leipold. They're good coaches, but they're just kind of the same older, tough dude. Cignetti came in cockier than all get out. He's the cockiest coach in America. And he's like 65, and he's like, hey, Google me. You don't think I don't have to win? Google me. And he's just gone out there and backed it up. In Indiana, Colin, they're great. They're linebackers, they're defensive ends.
Yes,
they're I just thought, he just got a great scheme? What's going on here? And it's no, he's got great players. I still think that Lanning is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
I do. I don't know if that works I think that guy at Arizona State, and I know they're losing right now. That guy's good too.
Yeah.
You're right though. At the collegiate level, though, that psycho coach can work. And Dillingham's that guy at Arizona State. Lanning's that guy at Oregon. Yeah. But what's the guy at Franklin just wore out his welcome. He won a ton of games, but he just couldn't break through. And again, the next guy, there is no guarantee in the world that the next guy breaks through, because who they're going to try to go hire? They're going to try to hire a Penn State man. They're going to convince themselves, we need Matt Rule. He played linebacker here.
Yeah.
And he's the best at a press conference in college football. He's the best. But he's done fine at college, but I don't think that's a knock it out of the park hire for Penn State. And I like Matt. He turned my alma mater around.
Matt Mosley. All right, I got to run, buddy. So do you. We're busy dudes.
Extremely busy. I think I have a tennis match waiting. All right. Thanks, Colin. Good to be with you.